Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of The Fad Show. On tonight's episode, I'm going to replace these worn out shocks on my 100 series Toyota Land Cruiser. I'm going to do the front and the rear. This is definitely a very DIY friendly job. I was actually surprised how easy it was. A lot of people online say that the rear is a nightmare, and I think if you have the right tools, you're going to be okay. Honestly, I think I did the rear faster than I did the front just because I didn't have to remove the tires. But anyways, with that, let's get to it. I'm gonna explain how I do it in both locations, and then I guess report on the status of my kind of mid-grade shocks after only 25,000 miles. Spoiler alert, both of them are completely toast. Anyways, let's get to it. So doing shocks on a 100 series in the front is about the easiest job you can do on a vehicle. It's just the 122 millimeter on the top and then a 19 millimeter on the bottom. I say that and now I'll probably run into trouble while doing it. And this was not for nothing because I already did the other side, and these old man Emu shocks are completely gone after only like 25,000 miles, which is kind of sad. And they ride like garbage. Not sure if they would be better when they're new, but that was brilliant. Smack my head into the fender. And I like to take everything off and just keep it in order and facing the same direction as the way I took it off. Kind of makes sense. I'll show the new one, but these retainers actually those cushions after 20,000 miles are also pretty nasty. And then once the bottom's out, you can just fish it out down below. And then again, I like to keep these in the order that I removed them in, just so I can get the new ones on right. All right, so the camera cut out there. I'm not sure exactly what I had shown or whatever, but the old man Emu shock after 20,000 miles was actually bad. So this is not all for nothing. So I'm just, like I said, I leave everything in order so I can just put it back the way it came out. You see these new cushions are also a lot bigger than the ones that were on there. It was challenging on the other side to get everything started. So I'm gonna put the bottom bolt in and then I'll jack everything up. I just use the floor jack, and really when you're doing that, you're just compressing these rubber bushings so that you can get the nut started. Because it's definitely difficult. I mean, that's a good thing, because it means you're gonna have a lot more, whatever, absorption there, whatever, cushion. So when the shaft starts to turn, you can just come in with an adjustable wrench. You can get it on here. If you're installing Bilsteins or Holman EUs, then they give you a place down below, which is kind of nice. But the torque spec on the top nut is only 50 foot-pounds, so it's not too bad. So like I said, the top nut is 50 foot-pounds. Obviously, there's no way I'm getting a torque wrench in there, so I'm just doing it by feel. And then the bottom nut is 100. And that's it. All right, so now moving on to the rear shocks. You can see I've already done one side. I removed the old Iron Man and put in the new Toyota OEM one. And I do have to say that this job is not nearly as bad as everyone makes it out to be. Yes, it could be easier, but it's not all that terrible. I think as long as your truck's not super rusty or someone didn't screw you over and put it on the factory or the top nut to a bajillion foot-pounds, you should be okay. Yeah, the one thing I'll say is a set of ratcheting wrenches is going to be absolutely fundamental to this job. I'm sure you could do it without it, but it would take you 3 years. I might actually think you could do the back faster than the front just because you don't have to take the wheel off. If you're really motivated, for me doing it on jack stands, it was a little bit of a contortionist type ordeal to get to that top nut, so it took me a little bit to get that top nut off, but going back together is pretty easy. Luckily, the factory nut is not a nylon lock nut, so it's a little bit easier to get on. Some people remove the spare tire when they do this. I did not for this side. We'll see how it moves, or how it goes for the driver's side. This might be one of those jobs where I'm not entirely sure what all I'll be able to film. But for the other side, yeah, I obviously just access the top nut from down below here on the forward side of the differential. So that's why I'm not really sure why people remove the spare tire. I guess it would give you more room to look up there. But yeah, so see if I can put the camera somewhere where you can see. All right, so the Ironmans are a 19 millimeter nylon lock nut, where the factory nut is a 22 millimeter. And then there's a 10 millimeter flat that you hold. I thought this side was going to be easier, but it is a little bit more difficult to see. So for the first one, I used the 10 millimeter on top. I think I'm going to try something different. So on the other side, I had actually used the 10 millimeter on the top, but on this side, I just used a pair of vice grips to hold the shock. This is way easier than what I did on the other side, but this side has these two brake plans over here. So it looks a little bit more difficult to get 10 millimeter on that top part. I don't want to toot my own horn, but that took me probably 2 minutes on this side, so I'm not entirely sure why everyone says this job sucks. I mean, it's not in an easy place to access, but... And then like the front, I'm just gonna take everything off and keep it in the order it came off so I can transfer it onto the factory shock. And the bottom here is the 17 millimeter. Just be careful when you take this off, because depending how blown out your old shock is, there might be some force behind it. The other side was pretty worn out, so I'm not too concerned about it. And then everything wants to come down. And then again, I'm gonna put everything in order that it came off so I can put it back together. And then there's a little bit of rubber that gets left on here from the old bushings, so I'm just gonna hit it with a tiny bit of emery cloth just to remove that old rubber. And then I'll put on some silicone grease when I go to put the new shock on. And the new shock, I'll just put a tiny bit of silicone grease on here. And then also to make this job a little bit easier for next time, I'm gonna go ahead and put some anti-seize on the top threads. New bushings, the old man emu ones are a lot more worn than these ones are, but all right. And then I just compress it, and then it only goes one way. Like that. Which it seems to be, with the sticker facing back for the OEM shocks, is the correct way that it wants to go. And you can pretty much get the new bolt on all the way, just finger tight. Luckily, they're kind of smart, and for the factory bolt, they don't put a nylon lock nut up here. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but it at least makes it a lot easier to go on. And then I found I was able to get it pretty damn tight just by holding onto the shock with my hand. I'll probably give it one good and tight with the 10 millimeter on top. Oh, that's what I did on the other side. All right, if you have a torque wrench that can get up top, good for you. Mine will never in a million years get there, but the torque spec is 51 foot-pounds, and these down here are 72. So that's another job done on my 100 series Toyota Land Cruiser. I guess in the intro I never really explained why I was replacing these, but I recently went on an overlanding trip in Utah, and after doing maybe 100, 150 miles off-road, I realized that the shocks had seen better days on the vehicle. Probably should have tested that out before I went, but anyways, yeah, I'm a little bit bummed because I actually have the service records for these shocks being replaced, and they only have 25,000 miles on them and were replaced in 2018. I guess, you know, I've been really happy with the Old Man Emu springs and torsion bars that I have, so I don't want to, crap on them too much. Seems like they make a halfway decent product, at least with the springs and torsion bars. I've been happy with those, like I said. But yeah, it's kind of a bummer that they are bad after only 25,000 miles, especially when both of these shocks are not cheap. But a lot of people online recommended just going with the OEM Toyota ones because they're like $40 to $45 a piece. I forget, like the front was like 44 and the rear was like 48 or something like that. But anyways, they're pretty cheap, and people use them even on lifted trucks. So yeah, I've been driving it with the front done because I did that the other night, and then I just did the rear tonight, and the fronts definitely feel a lot better. They're a little bit softer than the Old Man Emu ones, but those are also bad, so I don't know. I definitely noticed when I replaced the front that I had kind of when I was going on the highway and you hit like whoops, there was a little bit more rebound or a little less dampening than I would have liked, but that could have been because the rear ones are completely done, so I don't know if just the balance between the front and the rear got thrown off or something, but now I have OEM brand new ones in the front and the rear, so hopefully it will ride better. I guess I'll report back on a future episode. But yeah, the old man Emu ones, they won't even hardly rebound at all when they're compressed. They definitely feel like they still have good resistance, but they should definitely spring back faster than they are. That one seems like it's the better of the two, the one I grabbed to do make this point, of course. And then these ones are the easiest shocks that I have ever compressed in my entire life, which for a truck this heavy is completely ridiculous. Like Mark IV Volkswagen shocks are more difficult to impress. There's like no resistance in this. So yeah, this one's completely dead. Old man Emu one maybe had a little bit more life left in it, but definitely both of them needed to be replaced, so I don't feel bad about doing the job. And then yeah, like I said about the rear, I don't really know why people say it's so bad. I think the key to that one is just making sure you have a set of ratcheting wrenches. The Tecton set that I have didn't have 22 millimeter, so I bought the 22 millimeter separate. It's kind of expensive to buy it separate. I think it was like $28 just for the ratcheting wrench, but it is so worth it on this job. I couldn't even imagine doing it without it. It's probably the only way that's possible really to do this job. It is a little bit difficult just because it's difficult to access that rear. So if you're doing it on jack stands like I am, you have to kind of contort yourself to get to it, but it's definitely possible. I think as long as you have that ratcheting wrench, you're going to be fine, because you can get to the 10 millimeter on top, or you can just hold it with a set of vice grips like I did. I've seen people use pipe wrenches on them too in videos. So yeah, definitely possible. I would say you could do all four corners in 2 hours, never having done it before, as long as you have ratcheting wrenches. But yeah, hope you guys like this video. Probably more to come. I think I'll be tackling the exhaust manifolds here pretty soon, and then over the winter I'm going to be doing the timing belt. But yeah, hope you guys like the video, and stay tuned for next time. Thank you. Bye.